Hey everybody, this is Hollywood from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, and you're listening to the Card Subject to Change podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. Bye.
Well, sometimes love feels just right. It feels so real. It feels just like a pile driver. Yeah, a pile driver. That's what I'm talking about.
So me personally, I'm actually a lifer. I don't remember a time that I wasn't watching professional wrestling. Even my mom explains it to me as when I was a small child, you know, I would just stop in front of the TV and just sit and watch, and I'd just be quiet. It just totally zoned in. So I always been a wrestling fan. And as I get older and even learn more about the business, it's like I continue to fall in love with it for different reasons.
Just it blows my mind, and I'm like tugging on my mom's pants and stuff, and I'm like, mom, and she's like, yeah, what? And I go, I want to do that, and I'm like pointing at the TV. Well, she looks and she goes, oh, you want to be like Macho Man and wear the cool sunglasses and say, oh yeah, and do the elbow drop? And I go, no, I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Yeah.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, episode 128. We will get to our guest in just a second. Of course, I am your host, Never Wrong Nick Bull. Joining me is my co-tag champ of the For Frequency's Sake Network, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Nick. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Can't complain. Beautiful day. Another day we get to pump out a show, and another first-time guest on the show, and I'm very excited to get to meet him and introduce him to our audience. Of course, we are talking about the King of the North. We're going to find out how that nickname came about, but we have welcome into the studio this week, Gunner Brave. Gunner, so happy to have you with us on the Card Subject to Change podcast.
I got my own pyro this week.
Fireworks.
You're like Batista. Boom, 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 boom.
They got me pyro for the podcast.
Welcome aboard, Gunner. We're glad to have you on the show.
How you guys doing this fine Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon as we record this. It's a beautiful day to do a podcast, and what better way? We got another first-time guest here on the show. We're so happy to have him. Episode 128, King of the North. Before we find out the whole history of the King of the North, I got to ask you, Gunner, what I always ask all of our guests: what got you hooked on pro wrestling? What was that pivotal moment, that polarizing moment that drew you in, sucked you in, and has kept you in interest of professional wrestling?
When I was a kid, I was, for some reason, very emotional as a kid. I'd always be upset about things. But wrestling was the thing that would make me not upset anymore all the time. Like, it would bring me out of my world into theirs. And that was always cool as a kid. And then specifically, the Michaels Flair retirement match. I watched it happy as can be. I was a little kid watching Mania. But it was the first time that wrestling made me upset. And that was kind of like a sparking moment of like, okay, this world that these men and women are fighting in can take anyone out of their reality for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes into theirs, which for sometimes is all that people need. So that watching that match is what made me go from a fan to being like, this is what I need to be able to do. I even have the silhouette of the I Love You, I'm Sorry super kick tattooed on my wrist.
Oh, neat. That's awesome.
So yeah, that I always loved it. But then that realization of that this is sometimes larger than life kind of made me like, okay, well, this is pretty cool. I want to do this. So definitely that match.
And that moment in wrestling history, Nick knows this all too well. That is one of my all-time favorite matches and moments, just because of the emotion and the gravity of the whole thing there. Let me ask you, you're talking about Flair and Michaels. Who were some of your influences as you got into the business?
So definitely Sean, 100%. A lot of my crazier stuff, I take influences from Nick Mondo. Love Nick Mondo from CZW. A lot of my big falls are reminiscent of just legendary New Jack. Honestly, I love New Jack so much. So we got Sean. If I had to do my like 4 people I take influences from, Sean, New Jack, Mondo, and trying to narrow it down to 1. Honestly, I love Gargano. Just the small dude fighting his ass off thing.
Yes.
So those would be my 4 I kind of look and pull the most from.
Getting back to that Shawn Michaels Ric Flair match, I mean, just knowing what we know now about wrestling and how much wrestling has changed, and wrestling there's so much tribalism in wrestling, which there shouldn't be. But that match, it seemed like the whole world was watching, and that match like united everybody. Like everybody was on the edge of their seat for Flair Michaels. Everybody cared about that match. Everybody cared about the buildup. Everybody kind of knew how it was going to end, but you still wanted to see how it ended.
Yeah.
To see if it was, so you could believe it with your own eyes. So when you mention that match, it just makes me think of all that, like how like the world was on end with that match and how big of a deal it was to the wrestling world at the time.
And then he went and worked TNA for a few years, so it didn't even matter.
I know. I try to block that from my memory. Flair retired that day. He had his one more retirement match later. I try to forget the TNA stuff
because I was just a kid, right? Like I'm 23 now, so I was really young when all this was going on. So I remember like just finding TNA like maybe a year or 2 later and seeing Flair. I'm like, yo, what the hell did I just cry for?
I know.
I love you, man.
I felt the same way. Same way. I'm much older than you, and I felt the same way.
You betrayed me.
So Gunnar, we mentioned it off the top. You are referred to as the King of the North. Talk about how that nickname came into be, how you became King of the North.
I'm gonna it's gonna be a very underwhelming answer, but we'll get to it. So the first moniker I went by was the Best in the Midwest, because during the pandemic, Rocket Pro Wrestling put on a 1-day tournament that we filmed in an empty arena. We got 16 guys to show up, and in 1 day we filmed a double elimination bracket. Took us 8 hours of filming. I had to do 8 matches in that day, and the winner was crowned the Best in the Midwest. And then I knew that my direction at Rocket Pro was turning to be more of like on the badder side. I was going to be like, I'm the good guy who I just won this great tournament, but I'm not getting any flowers for it. I'm not getting any title shots. So I go to the dark side and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I don't want to call myself the Best in the Midwest. It's too kind of like, it sounds like a young kid calling himself a nickname. So I wanted to do something that was a bit more like a larger scale, I guess. And me and my family are also we're big Vikings fans, Minnesota Vikings fans. And whenever they do good, they call themselves the Kings of the North. So I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And I picked that. And then everyone's like, oh, you're a big Game of Thrones fan. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I know that's what it's from. I've just never seen Game of Thrones. So yeah, I wanted something cool, and I'm a Vikings fan, and that's kind of it.
And obviously the name is stuck. How long have you had the moniker, and how has it grown since you've become that?
So I did the Best in the Midwest, the person who won, boom, boom. I probably took on the King of the North moniker the end of 2021, maybe early 2022. So about 2+ years.
Sure.
And at first it really wasn't sticking, because I didn't know how to go about calling myself a king when I'm just some 5'7" white dude from Iowa, well, living in Iowa from Joliet. So then I started just like presenting myself with like almost like a less is more demeanor in a way, where obviously in my matches I do everything under God's green earth because whatever. But like even just entrances, I would always come out and be all like hyper and stuff. Then I just come out and I stand there for a minute and make people look at me. And that kind of like grew that up a little bit. And obviously my entrance gear now, it's white with blue and gold trim. It looks very royal. I have a robe that goes like from shoulders to feet. So I just kind of been molding it to be that like aesthetic. And now like I'll go to shows, maybe if it's my first time there, and I'll have people yell out like my nickname. So I didn't know it was getting some traction to it until now. But it was just kind of a slight change in mannerisms, and I let myself get a little more scraggly to do like kind of a more not a mad king, but like because I still do, I'm heel most places I go. So I wanted to look like kind of a loose cannon in a way. So just little odds and ends here and there that kind of culminated into it.
I like how you said there, Gunnar, that less is more. You hear people adopt that sometimes, or take it slow, or take their time with it. But it seems like the less is more has really worked with you with this.
Yeah, I definitely should listen to it in the ring because I do way too much in matches. But like the other parts are fine. The other parts are fine.
I'm gonna build off of that because I have to ask. I can't wait any longer. How did this come about? A Bloodline Rules scaffold match. First of all, how can you have a Bloodline Rules match without the Bloodline? Secondly, how does the scaffold get into this?
Yeah, so I am a big proponent of like just for wrestlers well-being, you need to find a company that you can be a fan again, like wrestle and just have fun. So there's a company in Dwight, Illinois called Defiant Pro Wrestling. It's ran by two longtime friends, Dan O'Connor and Candace O'Connor. And for me, that is that place. And I've told them this, like, this is my place where I can like take it seriously, but kind of mess around and have some fun. I had a match. Well, they told me I was going to have a trilogy with one guy, and it was going to lead to him taking the title off me. And it's a guy that I know, and I've known him for a year or so. We've never wrestled, but like we like shooting the shit together. And like the first match, we're like, okay, well, it was like noon. No one wanted to wrestle. The ring had a board in the middle of it sticking up. So I'm like, this is going to suck. So we just decided to go out there and just have nonstop Fed finishes. I think we did 15 Fed finishes during the match. We did the entire Hogan Cena comeback and people's out, everything. We were just having fun. So like that, the crowd started to get behind it. But like, okay, well, these fans, they kind of know like they're here to have some fun too. So the next show, the 6-man tag, the winning team picks a stipulation for the blow-off match. And me and my two buddies, Stone Ambrose and Robbie Reeves, decided we're going to dress up as the Shield just to have fun. So we all had our bulletproof vests on, our cargo pants. We come out, the whole Shield entrance, blah, blah, blah. And we have this 37-minute 6-man tag going across the entire arena and just having fun. And then I'm thinking, I'm sitting in the back, and I think Robbie asked me, like, how are you going to top this at the next show? Like, what can we do? Because you've already done every Fed finish known to mankind. You've cosplayed as the Shield. Like, what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. And I'm just looking around, and I'm like, I could do no rules. I could do false count. And then I heard like in the back, two guys talking about how crazy Cody Roman was. I said, I guess I gotta do Bloodline Rules. Like, let's just have some fun with it. So like, if I announce Bloodline Rules, I have time to then think of what I want to do. Like, there's this cool, crazy thing. So there's like no boundaries to what I can do, but I don't know what I want to do yet. And then like 2 days later, I think I texted Dan, the owner, at like 2 a.m. I said, you got any scaffolds? And he goes, I mean, yeah, why? I'm like, why don't you put that next to the ring? And that's the entire story. Just me saying, how can I keep one-upping this match and make it dumber? And it was so fun. It was so fun.
I can imagine.
Talk about how the match went down, because we hear Bloodline Rules scaffolding match, and it's like, wow, how did he pull this off? I want to hear how this was pulled off.
All right, I'll give you a play-by-play here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the match starts. Nick Cotis is the opponent. He comes out. This is my mania. This is the biggest match of my career in my mind. I've put it up to that. I am dressed like New Jack. I have my purple digital camos on. I have a Snoop Dogg t-shirt. I come out to the live rendition of War Pigs by T-Pain just for that show. It's a minute 47 before I even hit the curtain. I'm letting this anticipation build, brother. You better believe it. We get in the ring. All the refs are around the ring to like crowd control, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And one ref is in the ring, and I had my first of many tricks up my sleeve. So Nick goes like, this match is crazy. We need a ref who can take a punch. And he punches the ref in the face. He goes, not that one. Another ref comes in. I'm like, you know what? That's valid. Bow. I punch the second ref. So I'm like, we need a ref who can take a punch. And then without taking a payday, just because he's a good brother, Sabotage Sean Logan comes out from the back in a cut-off ref shirt, booty shorts, and refs the match like Shawn Michaels.
I wish. Oh, the Shawn Michael booty short ref.
Yeah, because he quick sidebar, he said he wanted to go, and he told the promoter like, hey, if you have something for me, I'll do it. If not, I'm just gonna go. And the promoter goes like, do you want him to ref it? I said, of course, 100%. But we played it off in the world of kayfabe, like, oh, okay, well, we need a ref who can be here. Sean was my first opponent there. He's wrestled Nick before, blah, 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 So we start messing around for a bit. Mess around. We kept it mainly in the ring. Back and forth. We both get some color going. And then we do a little bar fight spot. He spits in my face. I Sabu a chair at his face, curb stomp him on the chair. He kicks out. I put his head through the chair and go to like super, because I do the top rope curb stomp as a finish. And that's when the interferences start. Time for Solo to come out. We have one of the Blagger brothers come out. He takes me down. Boom. So I'm down. And at this point, I'm napping for the next like 4 or 5 minutes. This is great. Stone Ambrose comes out. Stone Ambrose his gimmick is he's a dog. So he missile drop kicks Blagger into the corner. He steps up on the buckle and he hides a little bottle of like yellow detergent water in his trunks, and he pretends to pee on dudes. So he pees on that guy. Blagger's partner comes in, bips Stone, gives him white noise, right? Robbie Reeves, who was the match before me, while this is going on, he has went in the back and put on his Shield gear. He runs to the ring holding a chair. As he slides in, he gets Superman punched by Nick, just because we thought that'd be hilarious. He's down. Reagan Lydale then runs in. She pounces Nick out of the way and then runs some stuff with Blackguard. Boom. Maggie Lee comes out. Her and Reagan brawl to the back. The ring is clear. The crowd thinks this has got to be over, right? Who else do they have? As I'm getting up to my feet again without taking a payday, one half of the Bang Bros, August Matthews, comes out to the ring to help me out. And as he's picking me up, he kicks me right in the gonads like a real ass. Sabu's a chair at me and goes to concerto me, and all is lost at this point. Until again, without taking a payday, Chico Suave comes out of the crowd. And they have a chair fight, and he takes out August with a Panama Sunrise. Nick then hits Chico with the chair. So then it's back to being just us. He sets up the thumbtacks. I set up the door for the fall. Tease. I give him a Blue Thunder under the thumbtacks. Sabotage comes for the pin. 1, 2 on his second. He gets a thumbtack in his hand and he can't count anymore, so he runs away in fear. So I get mad at him. So I kick him. So he's gone. 5th ref slides in. We brawl up to the top. I take the fall. 1, 2, 3. It's pretty great.
One of the images you sent me is just this great image of you coming off of the scaffold. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Go out of your way to find that. It's the craziest thing I've seen in a couple of months. But that sounds like it was the most ridiculously fun match that could have happened.
That's exactly it.
I can only imagine how the crowd felt watching that go down.
It was fun to just, because like when you're a kid and you're having all these matches with your imaginary friend or your actual friends, blah blah blah. You're doing crazy stuff like that. So now being able to do that in front of a crowd and just like have them enjoy it and us enjoy it, because they know we're having fun. I know they're having fun. Like, it's just a great all around time.
One thing I got to ask, Gunner, you said you draw from New Jack. Did you have the rap music playing the whole match?
No. No, listen, that it was if you've ever been to Dwight, Illinois, they're not rap fans, okay?
No.
I'm lucky I got my T-Pain in it. I was happy with that.
We're joined by Gunner Brave. This is the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Riley Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We had your tag team partner on here a few weeks ago. You guys are currently the reigning tag champs in Iron Spirit Pro, if I'm not mistaken, as
Correct.
the 815. Give us a funny story about your tag team partner in Sabotage.
Just one? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, whatever you got.
So, Sean and I trained together at Black and Brave. We were in the same class.
Yep.
And it was a cool dynamic because we ended up only having 4 people graduate out of like 15. Like, we had, I think, one of the smallest classes in history because everyone left. Me and Sean kind of gravitated towards each other because neither of us were good. Sean was better than I was, but neither of us were good, but we were the most competent there. I had done my backyard stuff. He had done training with Harley Race and some stuff Hodson in there. So we kind of gravitated together. So first fun fact is that when Sean was 18, he looked like Shannon Moore from TNA. So his name on my phone has always been Shannon Moore. And he responds to it because I've been calling him that for 5 years.
That's good.
It's great. We are complete antitheses of each other. I'm, more loudmouth, arrogant. I swear a lot. I drink. I smoke. Sean he's got his little voice, his cute little voice, and doesn't swear, doesn't drink, and like it just meshes us so well together. But I remember we had a show down in Atlanta together. So I drove my car from Davenport to pick him up in his hometown. Then we drove Chicago for CSW, Chicago Style Wrestling, and then we drove from there down to Atlanta. And the carload was myself, Sean, a wrestler called Nicky Von Gavin, who's down south now, and a wrestler called Brandon Strife. And we kind of decided to give it shifts. Like Sean and Brandon would be like the responsible ones. They'd be, like the dads of the group, and me and Nikki are the alcoholics in the back of the car having a great time. So when we left Chicago, I fell asleep and I let them drive for a bit, and then I would knock out the last bit of the drive because I don't mind driving for 10, 12 hours straight, and I just space out and whatever. And then on the way back, I was like, I'm just gonna knock out the first 12 hours of this drive, and then Sean can take the back 4. And so we get to the last 4 hours, we make the switch, and me and Nikki are in the back of the car just saucing it up back there, having a great time. And I just remember recording random moments of my drunken rambling, and every time, like, it'll be a video of me talking to Nikki, and then the second there's a pause, you just hear from the driver's seat just Sean go, every single time, just tired of us. And I got him to say hell one time, and it was the greatest moment of my entire life because that man does not swear. But I remind him all the time of there's an old lady outside just making a fool out of herself right now. My attention span's terrible. But on that car ride, there's a reason we had that tangent. On that car ride, there was I made him promise me that the next time he had a tag match, he would let me just lead the show. So we have a match with, I think, the Bang Bros at the next show, and he's nervous because I've called everything under the sun. Me, August, Davey, we're going crazy, and he's in the back. He's throwing up. He's having a terrible time. And after the match, he comes to me and he kind of tips his proverbial hat, and he's become spotty now. He's a little spotty guy. He does things. He has ideas. I'm so proud of him. I still owe him for the one time he dragged me through thumbtacks in a match, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Oh, we are chatting with Gunner Brave here on the Card Subject to Change podcast. We're going to take a quick break, pause to pay dues to our sponsors and to the network. On the other side of the break, we'll have our moment of focus with our good friend, the feline phenom, JT Energy. But we'll be right back, so stay tuned to Card Subject to Change.
Football season may be over, but for frequency's sake, still has you covered for all your sporting needs. Tune in every Sunday when the best professional wrestling podcast around, Card Subject to Change, gets you caught up on everything inside the ropes. They won't miss a count with weekly analysis and interviews. More into auto racing? We've got a double dose for you on the track. Tune in to Fast Money with Rod Villagomez each week and win some money with the quickest bets in all of sports. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your basketball fix? Points in the Paint has you covered with live shows every other week looking at everything in the association. Backed by popular demand, we have the return of The Payoff Pitch, FFSQC's baseball show, covering you on news around the MLB. If you're missing football, don't fret. Mark and Dan still have you covered in the football lounge. Missing Joe Winkle? Probably not, but he's still here talking sports on Educated Ignorance. Football season might be over, but we've still got you covered. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
For Frequency's Sake is brought to you by Durham Remodeling, serving the Quad City area's remodeling and repair needs since 1973. Clint's Draft House, grab a bite and a pint. 7th Street Moline. Lopez, New York-style pizza served up by the slice or pie, Davenport. Lifted Energy, energy drinks, coffee, donuts, and more. #GetLifted. Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Sports cards and memorabilia, vintage clothing, hats, pennants, and more. Ryan Allison Tattoo. Step into the vibrant world of tattoos with Ryan Allison. And A Cut Above, offering quality custom woodwork designed specifically around our customers.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
We're here on Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. Joining this week at Gunner Brave. And before we get back into the conversation with Gunner, we've got some more questions for him. We are going to take a brief moment here to recalibrate, refocus, and just breathe. Here's JT Energy with this week's Moment of Focus.
Welcome to a Moment of Focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And this week, in the studio, Card Subject to Change, you got Gunner Brave. And what are we focusing on this week? Well, how about we focus on being brave ourselves? Focusing on trusting your gut. Focusing on just getting through this existence by yourself. But if you need help from others, that's okay too. Because when it comes to all this outside world that we have right before our eyes each and every day, do you know what you can do with that? Explore it as much as you want to. If you feel stuck, just walk outside. Take in that deep breath of air like I always tell you to do, and be brave. Just like Mr. Gunner Brave. Because if there's one person that I know that's not afraid to do something, it's Gunner. So, this has been a Moment of Focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
Always good to hear from our friend JT Energy with some meaningful moments of focus there. We are here with Gunner Brave. Been talking all things wrestling. I want to play fantasy booking with you a little bit, Gunner.
I love this.
Let's start with a question I like to ask everybody. If you had a dream opponent, past or present, that you would step in the ring with, who would it be?
I think one, I'm just gonna say Andre because I think that'd be crazy. Just how big he was. I think that'd be fun. But I heard he smells bad, so I don't really want to do that. I just want to stand next to him. But truthfully, I'd probably go with Nick Mondo. Maybe not the full. I've done some Wild Weapon stuff. Maybe not full blown deathmatch, but like just from outside of when he was using weapons, his innovativeness and how creative it was, and just speaking to him in real life a few times, like I want to see the way that he goes about putting stuff together and how his brain works with things. So I think that would probably be it for it because I take the most inspiration from him.
All right, I can see that.
I like that answer. I'm going to ask you a question we ask our guests and stuff. Coming up, watching wrestling, I mean, obviously you were probably well after VHSs, but was there that go-to DVD, that go-to wrestling DVD that you would go to over and over again and watch, or go to the video store and rent over and over again? What was that go-to show for you as a kid growing up watching, wrestling DVDs?
Mania 24.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Very.
I think I had it on VHS actually, sir. Okay.
Awesome. Even better. Bonus points. Even better. If I'm not mistaken, does that show start with, is it Fit Finley and JBL just beating the crap out of each other like a street
dog shit out of each other?
Yes. I love Fit Finley's work. Like I love how he can go in there and wrestle, and I love how he can go in there and just beat the shit out of people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I always remember about 24 was like the Belfast Brawl. It was like Fit Finley and JBL just beating the crap out of each other.
Yes.
That I think that's if I'm not mistaken, that's what opened the show, I believe.
I think so. Because I just remember like in my head right now, Finley walking out middle of the day, it feels like, just to beat some old dude's ass. So
and of course we got Michaels and Flair, which we talked about. We also get Big Show and Floyd Mayweather on that show.
It was a very good Mania, man. I loved it.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think, what was the main event? Was Edge? Was it Edge Taker?
That might have been Edge Taker. I'm going to look it up.
Taker. Then it was Sean Taker. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was Edge Taker. Yeah, that was a good Mania. It was. Plus, there was Money in the Bank at that Mania too. So, I mean, anytime there's Money in the Bank at Mania, we don't get those anymore since it's its own standalone pay-per-view. I always felt like it was an extra bonus when there was a Money in the Bank at WrestleMania.
Yeah, those Mania ladder matches, they were really working for their payday there. Those boys were.
They were. They absolutely were.
Yes, and for sure the main event was Edge Taker. That was a really good main event. The whole card, just top to bottom, and that of course is one of CM Punk's wins with Money in the Bank. So star-studded Money in the Bank there with CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin, just to name a few. I love those
Shelton in those ladder matches.
He might have been the MVP of those ladder matches.
Shelton was working, man. Jesus.
Yes. I agree with you there. He was absolutely.
Oh, I think we lost our buddy Nick. He probably forgot to put a quarter in the internet machine today. But Gunnar, let me ask you. It's rare to see an Iron Man match on the Indies. You've been in at least won a championship out of it. Mm-hmm. Talk about what an Iron Man match is like for you. What goes through your head, because you know you're going to be there for 30 minutes working.
Yeah.
How does that come about? How do you feel going into that, and how did you feel coming out of that?
So first off, welcome back, Nick. Our guest host Nick over here is back.
My coin-operated Wi-Fi.
My directions are bad, all right. It was interesting because it was just something where I got a text. It's like, hey, your match of this month is going to be an Iron Man match. I said, are we doing 60? They go, just 30. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. You're not getting an indie crowd to watch a 60-minute match. I'm sorry. So I'm like, 30 I can handle with. and it was against AMB, who is relatively new to wrestling, and I felt like it was a test for the both of us. Where like, can I lead someone through a 30-minute match, and could he go for a 30-minute match, basically? It was interesting because I know that my style is very fast paced, a lot of movements, a lot of moves. So I know that I had to pace it in a way where it was still entertaining for the crowd, but not going to blow me up 5 minutes in. Um, and then you have to do the structure of, well, if I win at this point, then this has to happen, and this has to happen. And at one point during the match, Austin got rocked pretty bad and just didn't kick out of something he was supposed to. And we had like a minute left to then mess with the falls to get everything back on track for the finish. So it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. It was something I'd like to do again, but going into it was very daunting because it was like, how do I keep a basic wrestling fan base enthralled for 30 minutes straight without just nonstop sprinting, because no one's going to sprint for 30 minutes.
No.
Yeah, no, it was, in the moment, it kind of sucked, but now that I've done it, I'd be interested in doing it more. I think I could do a 60 because I really wasn't that bad on my cardio. I felt fairly well at the 30-minute mark. Yeah, I liked it.
Is that the most difficult match to try to put together an Iron Man match, or in your opinion, for you?
For me personally, I would say no, just because Austin kind of let me take the lead on putting it together. And I would just like leave him up like, all right, here's something. What do you want to do? I mean, I've done the Bloodline Rules match was just us just messing around, so that wasn't hard at all. I've done like a 5-on-5 Survivor Series match that went an hour. That was kind of difficult because then you have everyone who wants to do some stuff, and then you have to do like that one kind of sucked. Actually, now that I think about it, the 5-on-5 Survivor Series match was probably the hardest one, just because we had to go for an hour and we had 10 guys who all wanted to make a moment. So probably that one would be the hardest. And I wasn't even the one putting it together for the most part, but just watching the other guys do it, I'm like, I want no part of this. Just tell me what to do, please.
I hear you. I could see where that would be hard to do when you got 10 guys, like you said, that have to have their moment, and then you're doing the eliminations, right? And to go for an hour, that would be mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And with so many plates spinning in a match like that, I can't even imagine. Gunnar, let me ask you this. You're a young kid, you're coming into your own. Where do you see yourself over the next 5 years? Where will we see Gunnar Bray 5 years from now?
Well, right now I am I'm moving back to Chicago in like a month or so to kind of home base myself there, because there's just more opportunities out there and I have a lot more friends out there who I can hop in cars with. I've taken the last like 2, maybe 3 months a little slow because I've had some injuries. I've been like recovering and everything. My ankle's finally back to probably 80%. It's not gonna be 100% until I get stuff done on it. But yeah, so the move to Chicago is kind of like a hard reset where I'm getting there, I'm locking in and doing a lot more stuff. Within 5 years, I want to have worked Japan at least one tour. That's the goal. I've always loved Japanese wrestling, how much of an art form it is there, how different it feels. So within 5 years, hopefully I have one or more Japanese tours under my belt. That's the goal.
Any names stick out to you on the Japanese front that you want to step in the ring with?
Well, now they're all coming over here.
That's true.
You're right. They are.
I'm coming over here.
They are.
Yeah, honestly, well, in the next few years, you'll never know because there could be the top guys there could be here, we could be over there. Honestly, anybody, just to have that experience to be in front of those fans. Anyone who will take me.
There you go. There you go. That's you often hear people say, I want to go over there and wrestle. What do you want to experience over there when you're wrestling? What do you want to experience? You know, the culture, the wrestling culture. What's drawing you to go over there?
It's just always been very interesting to me how the general public sees the wrestlers, right? Where over there they are superheroes. During American crowds, I love American crowds. It's all hooting and howling the entire match. Japanese crowds, they sit there and it's like a respect that they give the wrestlers, where they're like, we're just going to let you do your thing, and then when the moment comes, then we will applaud you for it. And even though I think that, like, initially that might be a little daunting because I feed off the noise a lot. So if I'm sitting there, I'm doing my stuff, and the crowd's waiting for that moment to applaud, and I'd be like, wow, I kind of suck. But that's just how they do things. But that's the main thing, like how much respect the fans have for the wrestlers over there. Like it is wrestling to them is like superheroes and supervillains, genuinely. So that's the main thing that I want to experience, kind of like just how high of a social platform wrestling is put on. Not to be like I want to be adored and stuff, but just to like feel the difference.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gunnar, is there anything current product that's catching your eye? Like what are you watching when you're not in the ring? You know, current product wise, what catches your eye? Who are you a fan of currently out there?
I watch predominantly the indies, truthfully, mainly because I don't have cable. I don't feel like paying for cable.
Yeah.
I love the indies. My favorite product on the planet is Freelance. I've been on it a few times, but like still, so Freelance is my favorite product. And just off of that, like we've got the Bang Bros who are about to face the Machine Guns in June, which is, even if I'm not booked on that card, I'm going just to watch that match.
For sure.
My buddy Coda Hernandez is blowing up out there right now. I've been trying to keep in tune with the TV shows, with AEW and WWE, but just my shoot job has me working during all that time.
Sure.
Honestly, just the indies. GCW is obviously it's a whole different world. It basically is a Fed at this point. Yeah, that's the thing with me. I don't follow any product. I'll just hear about a match and seek out that specific match. So that's kind of how I go about my study. If I watch the match, I like this guy, then I'll watch some of his more stuff. So
sure.
Absolutely.
Your Jordan Olivers, your Kodas, your Deppin, just a workhorse anywhere he goes. So I'm mainly more of an indie fan than a TV fan. Although if any TV wants to give me some money, I'm cool with that.
I'm glad you mentioned Freelance. I've been trying to follow their product a little bit more because I've got a good friend out in Chicago she's been trying to get me to come out and watch a Freelance show when I have time, but I haven't yet. Oh my. Let me ask you this. So if the fans want to come and see you in the next week, the next couple of months, where can they find you? Where are you going to be at? Where do you predominantly find yourself wrestling?
Obviously me and Sabotage do all the Iron Spirit shows down in Bloomington Normal. I am a champion of Honor Among Wrestling out here in the Bettendorf, Iowa area, right in the Davenport Quad City region. And then doing a lot of work in Chicago now, which will then increase with the smaller companies around Chicago when I move out there. So it's a tricky time for you to ask that because I'm about to move and relocate everything. So at this very moment, Southern Illinois and Iowa, within the next month or two, Chicago. Just going to set my feet in the ground there for a little bit and then go from there.
Where can we find you on socials for our fans who want to check you out?
It's just at Gunner Brave on everything. I'm definitely not a big Twitter guy. I think if you go through my Twitter, it's just me saying dumb stuff or talking about T-Pain. That's really all it is. Love T-Pain. Instagram, I'm the most predominant on. Obviously Facebook as well. I'm pretty good at responding to messages. Facebook, Twitter, Facebook X, I should say. Facebook X, Instagram, just Gunner Brave. I think it's a Gunner_Brave on Twitter, but just look up the first name, you'll find it.
For sure.
Yep, it pops up on Instagram at Gunner Brave. One of your things I see here on your Instagram page I wanted to ask you about was that promo video for the Bloodline Rules scaffolding match. How did you wrangle all those guys? That was pretty creative, pretty funny. I'm sitting there laughing, watching it. All these guys that are talking about the Bloodline Rules scaffolding match. How did that come about?
It started at a freelance show. So the videos of Effie, Frank the Clown, and Prazak are filmed by me at a freelance show. And I love Effie. Me and him have been boys for a while. And I was like, Effie, I want to film you talking about a Bloodline Rules scaffold match. He didn't ask any more questions. He just was down for it. Frank's one of the boys that he was doing it. I knew I wanted to get Prazak's voice on it just because Prazak is the voice of independent wrestling.
The voice of the indies. I was just going to say that. Yep.
And having him say the words Bloodline Rules scaffold match to this day will pop me until I die. And then I was sleeping at a friend's house because whenever I go to Chicago, I sleep at my friend's house afterwards. They're all wrestlers. And I said, like, well, what if I paid for Vince Russo to also talk about this, right? So I hopped on Cameo and I wrote a little message, and it was like $50, and it said reply time in 3 to 4 business days or something like that. And in the message, I said, listen, like, this is us poking fun. This isn't serious. So, like, have some fun with it if you want to. If you don't want to, there's no disrespect, blah, blah, blah. This man, Vince Russo, responded in 3 hours. I in my headcanon, I hope that he read it and said, Cornette's going to hate this, and then filmed it immediately. That's kind of what I hope happened. So he sent that back. I wrote like only like a 20-30 second video, nothing crazy. It's like a minute and a half of him just hyping this matchup. Fully committed. He's like, yeah, I've seen everything, but I've never seen this. It's crazy, blah, blah, blah. He calls Nick Cotis a legend. He calls me good old G-Brave, which popped me because I just wrote that as a joke. And then I get that video, and then my opponent, Nick Cotis, he knows how much I love Nick Gage, so he did it without telling me that he paid for Nick Gage, which really did break my heart because Nick Gage did pick Nick Cotis to win, and that really hurt my feelings. But it's fine. So yeah, no, it was Frank the Clown, Effie, and Dave Prazak. We got in person, and then we just said might as well commit to it, and we both paid for Nick and Vince to video in, and it worked perfectly because those who know that I'm messing around thought it was the funniest shit in the world. Those who didn't were like, this is the craziest match we'll ever see in our entire life. So it hit on both sides perfectly. It's so good.
I thought it was excellent. I mean, the whole Bloodline scaffolding, you hear that, and it's such a far-fetched, hilarious idea. And you guys definitely went all in on the promo making, and I thought Vince Russo on there it popped me when I watched. I'm like, oh, they got Vince Russo to do this. This is great. But it really was well put together. And I think I think it's the icing on the cake of what you explained the match to be. Like you said, it was all supposed to be fun, tongue in cheek. And that's what this promo was. And if you're not having fun in wrestling, what are you doing? Right. And this was hilarious. I thought it was very well done.
Thank you. Did you see I put taglines on everybody's name? Like for Effie, I put Effie is fine. I put world travel wrestler. Dave Prazak, I put voice of the indies. Frank the Clown, I put was not paid to be here because this thing yesterday was paid to be here. But for Vince, I put the godfather of absurd matches because that's why I needed him there. Because this to me was something that he would have booked, and that makes me so happy. It's almost like
It's almost like he gives his blessing by doing the promo. He's blessing he's blessing your bloodline scaffolding match. That's the best part, man. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I laughed.
I sent him a message. I said, "Thank you so much, sir." And he responded again immediately. He goes, "Of course, have fun, be safe." I'm like, "Yes, Vince, I will. I will."
That had to be awesome. That just sounds fantastic. I love it.
Good times.
Well, that is going to wrap things up for today. Gunnar, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we get to catch up with you in the future. Maybe after you get to Japan. Maybe not even that long. But we've got an action-packed week. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
We're going to let you get to Chicago first and get anchored in Chicago, and then we'll bug you again in the future about coming back on.
Yes, sir. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Well, that is going to put a wrap on this episode here. Next week, we have an action-packed weekend because Saturday, Nick and I will be on location in Waterloo at the Cedar Valley Sportsplex doing the Absolute Pro Wrestling podcast pre-show podcast party. We've announced some guests on social. We've got another announcement coming up later this week. And then Sunday is Clash at the Castle. We'll be reviewing that after the fact. I'm excited about both of those, Nick. What do you think?
Yes, next Saturday is going to be action-packed. We're going to have to avoid our phones and as spoilers as much as we can because we will be on the road to Waterloo. Card goes on the road. We will be live and in living color, if you will, for the folks up in Waterloo talking about the Absolute Pro Wrestling show an hour beforehand. We're looking forward to it. Can't wait to get out on the road and see some new faces. And at the same time, we've also got an independent wrestling show to watch. And then we've got Clash of the Castle to review. So a very busy weekend next weekend.
Absolutely. Well, for my tag team partner, Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. You have been tuned into Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook, Country Financial. Gunnar, give us another double thumbs up so we can go get those fireworks again. Boom! Start the episode end the episode the way we started it. We will see you next week right here on Card Subject to Change. Have a good week, everybody.